prepare yourself so that you're ready when the right timing occurs. I'd say that the simple fact that you're sitting in this room is a great start. You can't meet the challenges of today with yesterday's tools and expect to be in business tomorrow. You simply cannot create and run a business without knowledge. Business law, Professor Tebow's class here. You guys think this class is useful? Yeah, you got to say that. He's sitting right here.
Good answer.
But I'll say it absolutely is useful. I took 2 business law classes at the Citadel and 1 at Georgia, and I use the material a lot. No business person, I believe, can be successful without an understanding of business law. Your customer finds a mouse in a bottle. What do? Our UGA professor used to start every lecture that way. Oh, we got a mouse in a bottle, and then he starts talking about product liability. But then, you learn about torts, performance and breach and discharge of contracts, understanding the law versus ethics, nature and structure of corporations versus partnerships versus LLCs, plus employment law, antitrust. The list goes on and on. While you're here at Columbus State University, I want to say you need to learn all that you can, not just business law. Take advantage of all the university knowledge and the people you have access here that can teach you things. You need to know basic business law for sure. I'm going to tell you that. So definitely pay attention to Professor Tebow. You also need to be financially literate, understand accounting, and organization theory and behavior. But these are all tools for your toolbox that you'll need when you start or work at a business. Try and master them all, because there's no formula for creating a successful business or being wealthy that does not include being educated. As Ben Franklin once said, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. Everybody can look out and find examples of high net worth individuals who maybe didn't go to college. I would challenge you to say that those people are immensely talented in some way, and somebody sees value in that, so they got to skip the regular path that most of the rest of us have to take. But by obtaining a college degree, you're gaining valuable information and tools you can use to your advantage later. A strong base of business knowledge will help you attack and solve problems better. Makes you a lot more valuable if you're going to work at a big company. Things will come at you hard. If you got the basis of knowledge that you need to see those problems the right way and attack them with different solutions, you're going to be in a good place. What I'm going to say next might sound kind of odd, but I want to throw this in as I just think an interesting, something that's interesting to me that I find kind of fascinating. The opportunity to learn from successful people by reading their thoughts and getting to share their experience to me is incredible. You need to read. I know you're doing all this work in college. You're having to do this enough reading for class, but it's amazing to me that for less than $20, you can pick up a book that somebody's written about their experiences, and you can learn stuff that you don't have to go through if you just read this book and pay attention. It's amazing. I've got 2 bookshelves in my house that are full. I've read them. I tell James books all the time to read, and it's, if you'll give me a second, there's I got my pages out of order. There's books that I would recommend, and give me one second here. Has anyone ever heard of Jim Collins, the book Good to Great? It's a good book for running businesses. Blink by a person named Malcolm Gladwell. I mentioned The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Good strategy in that. There's an old book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You need to study people like Peter Drucker, who's a management guru, and a guy named Michael Porter that's an expert on competition and competitive forces. But there are two books in particular that I've read that I've shared with James that I'd say were very impactful. One was called The Millionaire Next Door. Most of us are ordinary people. I always looked at people going down the road in this big Mercedes wearing fancy clothes as super wealthy. You know, they had to be doing something right. This book is an extensive survey study of high wealth individuals, and it basically said those people, a lot of those people driving those fancy cars, are probably one paycheck away from being broke. Meanwhile, the guy that's in the corner of the restaurant and unassuming might be the guy that's running a plumbing company with 15 vans and 18 plumbers working for him, and he might have $3 million in the bank. He's a multimillionaire. The other guy's not. Pretty interesting to see that, and it kind of changed my perspective on things. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is another one. A little bit cheesy, but Robert Kiyosaki basically goes into, I have a dad that said, go to school, get good grades, get a good job at a company, they'll take care of you. The other guy, his other dad, was a mentor that was a small business person, and he had a totally different view of money, and that included how to categorize assets as real assets and not liabilities. Is a car an asset or a liability? Cars are liabilities. A lot of people get stuff like that mixed up. If it's not producing income for you or appreciating in value for you, it's a liability. And cars absolutely, unless you buy a really old one and take care of it, turn it around, whatever, and it's a collector. I mean, it's just going to cost you money. Anything that costs you money is going to. The book is good. These are, and I'll give James a list. He can share it with you later. There's a lot of talk about college degrees today not being worth the investment. I want to tell you that is crap. You guys all are in here to learn. You're going to get skills from this. Is the return on your investment worth it? I think that's up to you, but I'm going to tell you, if you learn everything you can learn while you're here, if you network with the people, the amazing people that are here in this room, professors, people associated with the university, it's worth it. There's always the trades. That's become more popular as well. There's nothing wrong with that path either. You learn a skill, you go to work as a plumber, welder, HVAC, those as examples. There's no college debt. They're high-paying jobs. There's many paths, but you have to pick and you have to invest in yourself so you have useful skills. The world only cares about what it can get from you. If you don't have real skills or the ability to add some sort of value, the world will reject you. How can you benefit other people or a company is the question you need to ask yourself. What is your value? Do you have the ability to make money, save time, make work easier, make work more fun, solve specific problems, be more competitive, expand a business, attract new business, retain customers? These are all things. Can you do these things? College helps you do these things. You meet people that have done these things and you learn from them. What do you bring to the table? That's the question. At the end of the day, I like nice people, but you can't be just a nice person. You have to provide real value. The world pays surgeons more than people who wait tables, and there's a reason for that. Let's try something real quick. Take a second and just think about 5 things about yourself. I'd say write them down, but you don't need to do that. Take a second, think about 5 things about yourself. But here's the catch. You can't list anything that you are. I'm a nice person. I'm honest. You need to write down or think about the 5 things that you can do. So not who you are, but what you do. Example of that would be I make the best barbecue in Georgia. I wrote 3 songs that headliners in Nashville sing. You know, those are things that you do, and you need to understand the difference. Society's full of people who need things. They need houses built. They need food to eat. They need to be entertained. Either you'll go about the task of seeing to those needs by learning a unique set of skills, or the world will reject you no matter how kind, giving, or polite you are. And that's the cold hard truth and the reality of how things work. George Eliot once said, "It's never too late to be what you might have been." So think about that. Think about what skills you have and what skills you can bring to the table, what skills that could be important to make you attractive to some other person, some other company where you might want to work, and that'll help you out a lot. If you think about that, the key is not to focus on something great that you're going to make happen for you. For example, I'm going to find a new girlfriend or boyfriend. I'm going to go make a lot of money. I want you to purely focus on giving yourself a skill that will make you ever so slightly more interesting and valuable to other people or to companies. But here's the good news. Most ultra wealthy people are self-made. You can find that statistic just about anywhere. As much as 70% of the ultra wealthy people in this country build their own wealth from scratch. They didn't inherit it. Most of them actually went out and built it. America is still America. It does seem a lot trickier and a lot tougher these days. But in this country, anyone can still build a business and become incredibly successful. There's no perfect formula, but there are pieces of the formula that can't be skipped. Hard work, no way around it. You got to do it, and a lot of it. Discipline, consistency, risk. You got to take a lot of risks. I hate that part. You got to be smart. What you're doing in here right now, the skills that you're learning, it's going to help you. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of it as best you can so you get your return on this investment. You got to have lots and lots of grit. And you've got to provide some kind of value to people or to companies that you might want to be a part of. If you can do these things, you can be successful. You're here studying business for a reason. Make this time count. And that's all I have. I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and then share some things that kind of bug me as I look out and see people. Young people get a bad rap because they don't want to do a lot of work. And old people get a lot more credit than they probably deserve because they did a lot of work or they claim they did. And you know, they're better off than maybe a lot of us. But the reality is, if you do this and you benefit from the knowledge you're gaining here, and you're willing to work hard and take risks and put in the time, you can do well. There's nothing that can stop you from doing that. America's still great. It's got its issues, but you can go out, find people that invest in you if you have a good enough idea or you're willing to do the work, and you can make it. You really can. It's not impossible. And I'm a good example because I didn't have anything to start with. And I'm not super brilliant. I just worked really hard, got lucky, and kept at it. And I did want to share that with you. Sorry, I was reading a lot of this, but I want you to, the message of hope is that you're in here learning skills that you can apply to do great things. And you need to just believe you can and go do it. Quit thinking, start acting, right? How about questions? That would be better than just up here talking. Yeah, man.
My first question would be, how did you get your investors?
The great question. The simple answer most people would say is that investors come from a group of either your family, friends, or fools, right? People you convince to give you money, they're just shouldn't be giving you money because, you know, who knows, right? High risk. The people that I went to see were people I had worked with briefly in the past. I did a consulting gig for a company that does partition work. They had 2 plants. One was in Georgia, one was in Pennsylvania. And I had a new customer I was trying to bring on, and they were in the Midwest. And this company was in the Midwest. And I called them up and said, will you run this order for us? Put our name on it, but I'll pay you for it. And they said, yeah. And they started doing more and more of that. I thought they were pretty nice people, and they were good at what they did. So when I wanted to create my own partition company, at this point, there weren't many of those out there. There's only maybe 3 or 4 now total, but they were the most competent and friendliest, nicest people I could find. And I took a chance. I went to see them, or I called them, talked to them over the phone a few times, and then they said, yeah, come on, bring your plan and make your presentation. My business plan was probably this thick. I came today because I didn't know what technology you had here, and I didn't want to throw slides up and maybe have it glitch. So I just wanted to talk to you. But for that, I showed up, PowerPoint, slides, strategy. I had a mentor at one time that told me you need to have 4 plans. You have your primary plan and 3 backups. Well, you can have a primary plan, you should have a backup. To have a 3rd plan is really hard, and to have 4 is insane. But he told me that's the way you do it. So I'd done that, and it also helped that the people we were going to build a company to compete against was my old company right out of college. I had worked in different plants. I had done all the jobs. I was head of manufacturing and been in all their plants. I was head of sales and had been at many of the customers, where I had all the lists of the customers and where to go, who not to go see because they didn't pay well, who to go see because they were great, easy to work with. And that was the knowledge I had of why I started the company. But when you put all that into a plan and put it on a timetable, it was enough to impress them to spend money with me. For that to go a year before it really started to pay back was pretty tough. They're all over me, and that's one thing that is probably the hardest thing to do is just get started. If you don't, I had to have machinery which cost millions of dollars, and I had to have investors. And I hate risk, so I spread that risk by having them invest a lot, and they took an equity stake in the business that was bigger than I would have liked, but for the money they were putting in, it was fair.
Kind of like Shark Tank, huh?
It is like Shark Tank, yeah. That's actually not a bad show for how a lot of people, get off the ground. And you watch that, and you see, if you watch it enough and you have some experience, you see, some of the mistakes in the presentations right off the bat. And if you see somebody that's really doing a good job, you go, oh, that's good. I've been there. That's a pretty solid idea or way to approach it.
I think you should be a shark.
Yeah, no, I will say that I knew more about this world, this partition world, than anybody. And for me to not start a business would have been criminal, but it's not for everybody. You start your own business, it sounds good. Hey, I'm my own boss. I can do whatever I want, but it's not true. Your customers are your boss. Your investors are your boss. You have other people, suppliers that can be your boss. I mean, you have many bosses now instead of just the one. When I worked at a big company, and I worked there for 16 years before I went into this world of small business, you had one job, maybe 2. It was great. Friday, I'd put my laptop away, put the phone away, had a whole weekend to just do whatever I want. When I have this business, it never stops, ever. So, yeah.
Did you have any, did you ever have to work around any non-competes or be careful about some of this knowledge, like customer lists and contacts that you were taking with you from one place to another?
Absolutely. And I was lucky because from the time I left the big company, I had done other things for over 10 years. And non-competes can be argued in court pretty aggressively, especially in certain states. California is pretty good about protecting people from big companies, big evil companies. But there had been so much time gone by that no one thought I was a credible threat. And what was interesting is in the packaging world, some of the biggest people that use those partitions are glass companies, big, humongous glass companies, the ones that make Tito's bottles and Crown Royal bottles and beer bottles, and it's kind of a sin business, but it's pretty mature manufacturing if you really dive into it. And what's interesting is after 10 years, there was a lot of people that I had called on a long time ago that were still there. So they knew me, and I got in the side door that way, and then worked my way to the purchasing office and got a PO. And then that went well. Emergency came up. The actual, my competitor couldn't do it. We stepped in and did it. We got another order, and it just kept growing that way.
What about, we haven't talked about intellectual property yet, but that's next week. Did you have issues with patents or licenses or anything like that?
The short answer is I did not, but that is a huge deal. The company I'd worked for had technology in their operations that was proprietary. It was built by them over the years. I've worked with a company out of Milwaukee that does that builds equipment that I need to make those, and they're the only one in the United States that do it. We actually have bought so much equipment from them that we put in our own contract that says that if we can keep at a certain pace of buying your best machine, we get an exclusive. Like, you can't sell, you're building them as fast as you can for us, but we also want to make sure you don't stop doing that and start doing it for somebody else, which also creates a barrier to entry for my possible future competitor, because eventually somebody like me is going to come along and think that I'm too big and try to take me out. But they're not going to be able to get the equipment because the only people that build it are in Milwaukee, and they're tied up with me. You could go to China and reverse engineer something, but my technology is better. I'll be able to run faster, change over quicker, be more flexible. The company I compete with is definitely better than me at it. Over the years, you have to, when I say you have to be smart, you have to be clever. The taller the partition, the more paper is pulling into the machine to be cut and slotted and put together. There's only so fast you can pull that paper or the paper will break. So when you're running a beer bottle that's only this tall, the paper can be pulled in very quickly and chopped and cut very quickly. So you can go fast. Their machines run beer bottle partitions at about 160 partitions a minute. My machines will only do about 65, maybe 70 a minute. So that's a pretty big disadvantage. When I get to tall partitions, which are used mostly in the wine industry, they can't pull that paper and go that fast. Even though they have the technology, they can't do it. So my slower machines now are on an even playing field, and now our pricing, our costings, they all match up, and I can basically steal business from them because they aren't better than me. You got to find your niche, though.
Well, we talked a lot, David, during our contracts unit about how the law gives parties freedom to contract as they want to within certain limits. But as you go, I mean, I'm thinking you're probably negotiating contracts all the time.
Yes.
Not just with your suppliers, but customers and all kinds of vendors. Does that take up a lot of your time?
It does. I have now gotten to a place where I have a team of people that really helps focus me on things that are bigger and more important with the business. But there was a time when I would go to the plant, start the machines, get the machines running, switch clothes, run to a customer, close a deal, go back, sweep the floor, get the trash, the dumpster out to the back parking lot so the trucks can pick it up, calling the forklift guy to load a truck, everything.
Do you find that, because I would think it would, but do you find that gives you more credibility with up and down your company that you've done every job there?
So in my business, I did everything. And if somebody came in and didn't want to do something in particular and the boss is dumping the trash cans, it didn't give them a lot wiggle room to say no to whatever because I was doing it all. If you take that as far out as to a customer location, most of my customers, believe it or not, are a lot of them, the cool ones anyway, are wineries, huge wineries that started as just they see themselves as farmers. They grew grapes and they just happen to make some wine. Anybody heard of Camus wine?
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. The owner, Chuck Wagner, he's a farmer. You go into his building in slacks and a sport coat and start talking sales, he'll get mad. If you come in my work boots and my greasy jeans and dusty shirt, and I'm just trying to get through the week, he thinks that's great. And he'll tell people that's great. And when I first started in California, I was the corporate sales guy. I'd go back and change into nice clothes and then go see people. After a while, I just started going in my work clothes. And they were like, the owner of the company is also calling on us. We have a question. He always can answer it. He's always, well, I wasn't always there because I was half the time here, but I spent so much time there, they didn't know that. But I wear work boots and jeans into every freaking meeting that I go to now. I don't even have nice clothes. Somebody's going to die soon and I don't have a suit anymore. And that's a problem. But they like that. It's genuine. It's sincere. And it's actually kind of rare, to have somebody that's involved to that level. I sat down and did an agreement a few weeks ago with a big company, and everybody in the conference room, worked for a living, and I worked for a living, and we just hammered it out. I typed it up on a Word document that night and came back and we signed it, and now they're probably going to be a $3 million account for me. But you got to be yourself. You got to be, some people do like to be called on and entertained, and that is how it works in some industries. But in mine, old line manufacturing, wineries, they drink beer, they work for a living. I go in and I can relate to that, and they can relate to me, and it works. It's interesting.
So, David, one of the things that we do in this class that has nothing to do with business law, but that's another story for another day, is that the college requires a part of our curriculum to be career prep. And so the students this semester have been doing mock interviews and getting their resumes polished and updated. And to me, and maybe somewhat to you, the interview and the job world that they're facing is foreign. We talked a lot about how they're having to engineer their resumes to pass AI screens before they even get to a person. But what advice do you have in the job seeking or the interviewing or that sort of thing for them?
As far as interviewing, it's probably so different now than when I did it that I shouldn't comment. I want to say that if you have the ability to pay for college and also do internships and not have to work at night, to pay for college, and you can do these things, you get in the door however you can get in the door. You do the worst possible job that they can hand you with the best possible attitude, you will get hired, because that is rare. All these jobs that I did for the big company, moving me around the country, it sounds great, but it was horrible. I got the worst jobs, third shift supervisor. It was horrible. But because I did them, I learned a lot. I became very, very valuable to the company, and I got moved up and more money and more responsibility over time. If you can just get in the door doing anything, you'll get noticed. With the right attitude, the right work ethic, do anything. And that's the hard part. How do you get in the door at a big corporation? That's where you got to use some creativity. That's where your network could help you. Name dropping, references. People can refer you to somebody in the company. I happened to get a job at Sunoco because the lady that was in charge of HR at the time, her husband was a Citadel guy. And he's like, "Oh, you got a Citadel guy." He just happened to see her stack of resumes on her desk at home one night. and he noticed that one of them said something about the Citadel. So she pulled it off to the side, and at that point, I had done about 800 interviews, it felt like. So I was pretty smooth at that process, and it just went well. But that's how it happened. It was just a freak thing. It might be a freak thing to get you in the door, but whatever it is, don't be too proud. They told me this at the University of Georgia. Congratulations, you just got your MBA. You have the right to start at the bottom and move your way up, from here. Don't be that arrogant, a-hole. Get along with people. I say nice people aren't valuable. That's true in the business world. You can't just be a nice person. You got to have a skill. You got to be attractive to somebody because of those skills. But it still matters if you're a nice person. I won't hire jerks. If they're the best machine operators on the planet, they're not going to work for me if they're jerks. But they have to be able to run the machine. So, there is a trade-off. But just get in the door somehow. However.
All great advice. I've got so many questions, but I know y'all are talkative, so I want to give y'all a chance. What other questions do y'all have?
Yes.
Emily.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story.
Well, thanks.
And I will say a lot of things, or the main thing that I've noticed with a lot of CEOs is their discipline and their mindset. Were there any non-negotiables that you had when you were becoming a business owner, whether it was reading X amount of chapters of a book or journaling or anything like that helped you become a better CEO?
I would classify myself as a reluctant entrepreneur. I got into it, but it was hard, and I didn't really like it. And it was mostly the risk that I hated. You could do all this work and end up with nothing, and that didn't happen. But there is a level of discipline that you have to maintain, or you just won't make it. And that's just whatever it is that are the fundamental basics of whatever that business is that are required to be done at a high level. Do it well. It has to be done over and over. My experience with business is that the successful businesses are better at, or amazing for some reason. Successful businesses that win over time are possibly just ordinary businesses that just do the basic non-sexy stuff every day better than anybody else. I use Chick-fil-A as an example just because their culture is a competitive advantage for them. You go into that place, it's nice, it's happy. I don't even like their chicken sandwiches, but people go there because the environment, and they're treated with class or with manners, and it's an experience. Starbucks is kind of like that too, or it used to be. That can be a competitive advantage, but it all matters. I'd say grit and discipline is probably the two biggest things you're just going to have to get through it, because it's tough.
I'm going to let y'all in a second, but this just came to me. I want to ask James, how much of this that you heard today did you already know? When did you realize, what has been your experience of living through your dad's journey?
I got to know a lot of it because, I get to ask and I get to live with my dad for most of my life. But I was going to say, I also have been able to lucky enough to spend a few summers out there and work for him and at his warehouse that he talks about. So it is also just getting to see a little bit what he does. Not really there for when he's closing the big deals or anything crazy like that, but being able to work at the warehouse, know how partitions made, and really getting to do that gritty stuff that he says he gets to do is also very just eye-opening and super cool to see what my dad gets to do every day in, day out, and what kind of what he's been fighting for his business for the past 9 years. And every time I get to call him, every week or so when we get to catch up, because I'm a busy person. He's all over the place. He says, work never really ends for him, and that could be on the weekends, on the holidays. I'll get a call and we're like, oh, dang it, that's not it. it's like we're about like 9 p.m. enjoying like Christmas, and it's like still 6 p.m. in California. He's like got a last minute call from a customer just being like wishing him Merry Christmas, but he's like, "That's all work, man." But
You've had a front row seat for it.
yeah, I've got. But it's always like he gets to tell me about all the deals that he gets to do, and he's super proud of his company, and I'm always super happy that he gets to do what he's proud of. So,
Cool.
There's a lot of sacrifices, though. I missed a lot of time
yeah.
with my family doing this.
And I'm going to guess that probably all this wouldn't have been possible without your support,
Right.
who is also here today.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
anything you want to say to rebut or I'm just kidding.
It's all true. You just got to work hard. You can't give up.
When you had a front row seat for it also.
Yes.
So cool. All right, we got more time. What other questions y'all have? I know you do. I'll ask Yike and Davis then. When you hear Mr. Harrelson talk about discipline, how does that resonate with y'all? Is that something that you agree with as student athletes, being able to got where you are? How does discipline fit in for you?
I totally agree because as a student athlete, we had to manage our time and be really patient about like the homework and our training. To be on the same line, we cannot be this as much, because in the spring, because our sport is spring season, we're gonna have a lot of away match or we're gonna have a home match. We're gonna miss a class, and every day after the practice or matches, we're gonna be really tired. That's a time we have to be really patient, be disciplined about like, okay, we have to do this homework first, we have to do this homework later. I can manage our time. Like we had to really be disciplined. A lot of people think student athlete probably really like chilling or like not a lot of work, but actually like we are really like busy like normal students.
Okay, very interesting. Davis, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think being a student athlete is a really good way to learn discipline. Like a lot of it sucks, you know. Like in the real world, you're gonna have to do stuff you don't like. You're gonna get to the top. So I feel like it's good for future success.
Good. I like that. All right. What other questions y'all have? Miss May.
I don't really have any questions, but it's just encouraging me. Hear you confirm a lot of things about the business world that I've been told and knew, but to hear you from an active top position say all those things are true when you're at the bottom level, it's encouraging that I'm on the right track with the right mindset.
Don't think this doesn't matter. If you don't know your path, that's fine. But you're in college, take advantage of it. I will say this: if you don't get everything you can get out of it, it's not the end of the world. But understand that people will use the lack of paper, the lack of the diploma, to hold you back. And by having that piece of paper, it takes away their excuse to not say yes or bring you in, let you be a part of their world, whatever. People always try to do that anyway, but you take that away from them by having a college degree and having skills. So, this is a lot of money. It's a lot of time that you're investing. Make it worth it, because without it, you're worse off. Your life will be harder. And it's not about money. Money just makes things easier, but money's not everything. But with money, you get freedom. You get the ability to make choices that you don't have to worry about if you don't have money, and you're going to be better off as a result of all this hard work. So it will pay off.
One thing I will second that David said is that you do need to think about the references and what they'll say when your future employers call to check them. If you are a person who worked for me and you were willing to sweep the floors and take out the trash, that's probably one of the first things I'm going to tell the people who are calling me to check your reference. Yeah, he does good work. She has a good work product. She comes to work on time. But what I'm really going to be emphasizing on are those intangibles and those things that I'll make you successful, that I think will make you successful beyond just your average person. And if I'm the person calling the reference I'm much more interested in hearing that person tell me, yeah, this person takes out the trash and sweeps the floor and does everything with a good attitude. That's great. I sort of expect the references to tell me, oh, they do good work, they're good people, you know. But I'm listening out for the things that might make this person different. So I think that was a great point. Damien, I know you have a question. You always have a question. None?
Can't think of any right now.
All right, Miss Miles.
It's not so much of a question, but like what I like that you said, how you want to do business with other good people. Like when you mentioned, for example, how one company has really great machines that you need, but the people, they're jerks. That could bring your business down. And I like that you said you want to work with people that's also going to uplift the business. And it's really good for like, business owners, because you want customers to keep coming back. Because if you get somebody that brings your business down, that also brings down the customers and not wanting to deal with you. They want trustworthy people that they can buy. So I really like
Your business is basically a collection of systems to provide value to a customer. But those systems are run by people. And basically that's your team. And if your team's great, then you're going to be great. And no good business has a bad team. I didn't do this. I did a lot by myself at first, but I don't do a lot by myself anymore. And as you get bigger, you really have to have a good team of people. And that becomes more and more important.
All right, we got about 3 minutes, so let's do our Keyshawn, go ahead.
I got a question.
Yes.
So, I remember you said something earlier about like having doubts, right? I want to know like at the lowest time when you're building your business, like how did that feel? What was your doubt, trying to get through that period?
I didn't do a good job of talking about that. That's why I was trying to read this, because I wanted to say that part because it's a huge part of it. When you're starting out and you don't make any money for 5 years, I mean, at some point you think, what in the world? I mean, I am messed up. This is stupid. But that's where the discipline comes in. And that's where you have to kind of change your frame of reference as well. I mentioned, be your, 3-year-old self, yourself 3 years ago. What would that person, like to see, 3 years from that point? And you're sitting right there already. You're not where you want to be, but golly, look how far you've come. And you just kind of, it's your attitude. You got to change your attitude and your perspective a little bit. And you just can't stop. You got to keep, that's the grit part. You just got to keep going. Because if you do the right things and you know they're the right things and it's just taking a while, then you stick to it and you keep going. And hard work, like Babe Ruth said, it's hard to beat somebody who never stops working, right? You just got to keep going.
All right, we got 2 minutes. So what I want to do is let's do quick hitter. Biggest takeaway from today, Levi. Putting you on the spot first.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That he's still involved in like the day-to-day, like multiple levels of work, even after 9 years of
Yep.
doing it.
Good. Davis. Read more. Good. Tim. Never stop working. Autumn.
Your first investors are gonna be like friends and family.
Okay. Mayana.
Find a good business partner that's gonna uplift the business.
Jackson.
Sticking with it.
Carly.
The books that you said to read,
Miss Doe.
consistent, discipline.
Ramon.
I think he said something about like if you do something well.
Yeah. Doing something well is better than coming up with a brand new idea, right?
There you go.
Yep.
Faith.
Don't be afraid to do the gritty job.
All right. Amber.
Right on.
That sometimes simple ideas are really good.
Damien.
The first thing that you try at isn't always going to be the thing that sticks, so you may end up finding something.
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Finding something that you're good at and exploiting it for your benefit.
Juliet.
Connections they matter a lot.
Aaron.
Effort matters.
Mr. Gaduru.
Don't expect success to come overnight.
Mr. Coley.
Right.
Grit, persistence, hard work, good team around you, a good attitude.
Right on.
All right, Emily.
Discipline and not being afraid to do the unsexy job.
The
right.
unsexy jobs.
James, you got the first word. I'll give you the last word.
Wait, on just like what I took away from it. Why hamburger helper for 5 years? Nah. Nah, just grit, discipline. I mean, again, it's always really cool to hear a story and hear that those first 5 business years of the business weren't that smooth. Because if you ask me, I was pretty clueless. I was just going to school day in and day out and making sure I had good grades. And just keeping preaching, like what you keep saying is keep preaching about grit, discipline, and especially it's how I got into cross country is because he wants me to learn that grit and discipline and how I got into it.
Excellent. Thank you. So what I talk about to you guys twice a week for this semester, I think is important, and I hope it's useful to you and valuable to you, but it's not as useful and valuable as what you heard today. Real life stories about what it takes on the ground, not just in a classroom or in academia, but what it takes in the real world, I think are more valuable to you than anything I can tell you. So please join me in thanking Mr. Harrelson for sharing with us today. If you have, thank you, sir. If you have questions afterwards, come on up. I wanted to take a group picture as well. So if everybody will come down here real quick and let me take a picture.